So I figured I would go back to the beginning about how I acquired the table saw. A woodworking company in Birmingham that were upgrading their facility, and OSHA had came in wanting them to upgrade to saw stop table saws. So me and my wife hopped in the truck, headed down to Birmingham, and started looking through everything. We found so much stuff. The table saw, of course, that I had my heart set on was this table saw here. It is a Rockwell Delta Unisaw 34-450. Came with a 3-phase, 3-horsepower motor, Rockwell Delta Unifence, above arm support that you could attach dust collection to, as well as has a blade guard attached to it. Got it loaded up along with the other goodies, and it's set for about 4 months before I was able to do anything with it. You can see, I think you could see the humidor shot, which is the last video I posted, kind of behind the table saw in a few of these shots. But we just had a lot going on, and I also had to find an inverter that I wanted to use to convert it from phase 3 to phase 1. When I first got back home, I kind of wanted to get everything cleaned up in general. Just there was so much dust, and Birmingham is about an hour and a half away from where we live, so we took the interstate. Now, going 70-80 miles an hour on the interstate for, a solid, probably, I'd say an hour and 15 minutes out of that trip, there was still so much dust left. Like, it was an insane amount. So I wanted to go through and just kind of get dust out of all the crevices, cracks, and corners before I started loosening bolts and, removing the top, and just kind of wanted to clean it up a little bit before I got started removing anything. I ended up setting a fan right here where when I would blow, it would actually blow it out and out the front door of the garage. I mean, look at the dust on the floor here. It was insane. The last little bit I could get cleaned up with the vacuum once it all kind of settled a little bit. And I could start by removing the front fence. This was just held on by 2 bolts that mount to the top here, and then some other self-tapping screws that go into the melamine. Once I had the front and back fences off, I could actually move the extension table out of the way. Now I can remove the overhead arm assembly that holds the blade guard in place. I can start to remove the 4 screws that hold the cast iron top to the base. And once the top was removed, I wanted to cut the saw on just so I could listen and see a little bit better and kind of see where there might be any potential damage to the saw or any areas I need to focus on. You can tell that I need a little bit of some TLC, so. Then remove the blade. And the blade guard from the inside. course, we have a little bit more dust. I could then move on to starting to remove the motor. It's just held in with 2 bolts. The front bolt, I believe, is actually supposed to be just like a set pin. It has a cotter pin on the other side, but the people that I'd purchased this from had a screw in it. So you'll see me here removing these 2 bolts. And I would also recommend, if you guys are doing this yourself, have, you know, a long solid piece of wood nearby so you can use it to support the motor. As one, you're removing it, you'll need to kind of push up to relieve a little bit of tension. It did help me quite a bit. And then for when you lower the motor, it gives you a solid reference for the motor to sit on as you're removing it. And even with the best bracing and support, you still somehow always drop something. These belts were in pretty rough shape. I'm gonna say that's gonna be the majority of the sound we heard just a little while ago, but I do replace the bearings as well. Once the motor was out and out of the way, we can move on to removing the Arbor assembly. I left the pulley and everything as one unit, just removed it. It is held in place with 1 bolt and a key. And of course, you guessed it, more dust. So I had an unexpected visitor stop by and thought that I had recorded this next part of removing this assembly, but I had not. So I wanted to step you back through it in case you guys are using this as a reference video. I chose to remove it as one assembly, so I disengaged both of the hand wheel shafts and pulled them out. Once those are out of the way, they're just held in with a lock screw. I could remove the trunnion bracket, bolt and nuts. There's 5 on the top, 3 on the back bracket, and 2 on the front. Unscrewed those 5 bolts and took everything else out as one assembly, and then once I got it to my workbench, I could break down the individual parts and get those cleaned. Alright, I think we're at a good stopping point for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it thus far. I think what we'll do is maybe a 3-part series, the first being this video. The next video will probably be part cleanup and painting, and then the last video will be, of course, reassembly of the table saw. If you did enjoy the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Be sure to hit that notification bell too, that way you know when the next part of the video series is uploaded. If you're on social media, check me out on Instagram at DraysWorkShop or on Facebook at DraysWorkShop. There'll be links in the description below. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.